think I'm on. Good morning, everybody. I'll do like a little update. I was gonna wait and maybe go down by the water later and do an update, but I'm listening to some of the news. The big news today is yesterday you had the biggest point drop in the market ever. Okay, it was down at one point like 1,600 for the day, then made a recovery and it ended like about 1,200 points down. Percentage wise, not so much the biggest drop ever, but the biggest point drop ever because it's so high. Those of you that have watched some of our stuff in the past, you know, like John, well, he's just a bear in the market. John's just not pro market. I've always been negative market because, and my friends, I know you guys are intelligent, okay? Let me just say something that's kind of everyone should look at, even those that were in the market, those that were not in the market. I'm dealing with a lot of Google and things, and the biggest money in the market is really with things that are tech industries. You know, you have what's called Bitcoin, which is something a little different, and it's kind of an amazing thing because Bitcoin is just a technological currency. It's not a thing that you hold in your hand, as far as I understand, but it's just a currency, and it has a technology called blockchain, and these things are interesting. But all of these are like the big drivers of the market. Facebook and Google, they have more than 50% of all of the money that's invested in online tech and all, and the overall world market in stocks and all this, it's almost a little less than like half of all the money that's invested. It's quite a lot. But what are those things? Whether I'm talking about a Bitcoin, which had a tremendous rise in value, or these are tech companies and all. But you know, everything that's invested in that particular thing, and I'm not saying they're bad, it's dependent upon you seeing it like you're seeing me now. For instance, if Facebook, somehow, the hackers or anonymous or whoever it is, if they were able to shut you down, even for a month. You know, the other night when I was uploading YouTube videos, I realized there was a problem. And initially I thought, man, maybe they do stuff like that. But I realized YouTube, because you just Google, is there a problem with this thing? And it was a big problem. So now a big portion of all the money invested, we know this is a trend within markets, is all in these things. A big part of it. What real value is any of that? And I'm a fan of Facebook, Google, YouTube. I'm a fan of all of those. But if you could shut it, if some hackers could shut it down, even for a month, that would be enormous. Because whatever value, the way you value those things, that's it. It's all gone. The ability of one internet. We live in a world with one internet, and all of this hinges off of that one chink in the chain or whatever So my personal view is basically, I don't know if the market. I just listened to. I was putting the news on as I'm getting ready and cleaning up. I did a lot of teaching already, but and there's like a fear it's going to be a big drop. If what you've invested in, I've said this before, the old concept of investing in stocks and all, you were investing in the actual value of a particular company, okay? And a lot of that has changed. And just to show you the shakiness of all this, of the markets and all, why the big drop? Because there's fear that the economy might be doing better, and that means interest rates might go up, and then you had a lot of people flee for that one particular thing. What does that show you? It's not really based, and many of the stock people today, good people, many investors today, what they're going to tell you is the fundamentals of the economy are good. The fundamentals are good. And primarily that's true. But what they don't say to you is the valuation of the market the last couple of years is not in line with, if you will, just what the fundamentals are. And regular old ideas of stocks, what is the value of a company, okay? Because you could see just the fear that interest rates might rise. You had so many billions and billions and billions. Some lost, some just took out, but so to me it's shaky. Now I wanted to comment on that because if tech industries, which are wonderful things, and if they play such a big role in the valuation these last few years of markets, and all of that is dependent upon your ability to see that Facebook, to see that YouTube, which was hacked the other night, which is now part of Google. Meaning that's shaky to me. You're not, the market in a great way is no longer something that you're investing in, something that the company itself has value. These tech industries, of course, they have value, but look how shaky it is, okay? And look, all the money that people have made in Bitcoin, great. I'm glad they made that money. I mean, that's not even something it's a technological currency. It's a currency that doesn't even exist. Okay, a few comments. The story about the whole memo and all, there's a little more that came out. Chuck Grassley and also Lindsey Graham, who is not really a big pro-Trump Republican, Lindsey Graham. But they also kind of released another memo that was a little, it showed that not only did the Clinton campaign and the DNC, not only did they fund the opposition research for the Russian dossier on Mr. Trump, which indeed was used, in my mind, in a wrong way, because Mr. Comey, I think, misled the FISA court, obtaining warrants on people, Carter Page. But also, you had a Trump campaign person feeding information to this British spy, Christopher Steele, who put together the dossier, and that was also making it in to these investigations of the FBI and all. So you've seen a politicization of the Justice Department, even under Mr. Obama. Of course, Hillary was Secretary of State before she ran for president. So you saw these people, and the media, they don't really want to cover that. But this is a problem. It's a scandal, okay? It is indeed a scandal. And I noticed something, even on PBS News yesterday, and I heard a few of it on radio news. What they now begin saying the last few days is, what role did Russia play in the Russian bots on YouTube? Russians, what role did they play in the releasing of the memo? In the mainstream news now, the question isn't, wait a minute, the memo is accurate, showing problems with the FBI and Justice Department, problems with Obama, holdovers, and true problems where they cross lines and use their authority in ways they should not have done it, and political influence. That's not really the question that the media asked, the mainstream media. What they then begin to focus on is, what role did the Russians have in making the memo be released? Never mind if the memo showed wrongdoing. It's a game. Adam Schiff, the Democrat that saw this memo before it was released on this House that's the investigation of it all, what they said before it was released was, it's gonna be very harmful to the country, revealing secret sources, can't do it. Now remember, that man read that memo. So he said, if you release it, it's gonna be, terrible. After the release, what did these people say? It was a nothing burger. Well, you read it before it was released, some of you. And then you said it would be terrible. It would be a huge thing if it was released. It would destroy all of the intelligence agencies and informants and all. And then after it was released, the same people said it's nothing. What's the big thing? So you lied. Because some of you knew what was in it, and now you're saying it's nothing. But obviously there was something you didn't want the public to see. So now they're focusing on what role did YouTube play? And they're pushing that. I did not watch the Super Bowl, and I don't watch football. But I'll give you one little hint from the numbers. I think 100 and something, I forget what the numbers were, 100 and something million people, 103 million maybe watch the Super Bowl, which was down 7%. Why was it down 7%? Primarily because there was a lot of Americans who protested, people who love football, but they were highly offended over the political taking the knee during the anthem. Some of the players did, started with Colin Kaepernick and spread. And I'm not saying, look, I defended a lot of the Black Lives Matter protesters, the peaceful ones and all. But what that showed you was this isn't the game that Russia got a lot of people wanting to see a memo, because those numbers would show you that it could have been worse, but it was down 7% because the population in the country, a lot of them were indeed upset. A lot of people, Americans, patriotic Americans who love football, they showed it. And so the media would tell you things like the population of the country, they're not in tune with it. The primary reason Mrs. Clinton lost this election, it has to do with working men and women in what we call Rust Belt states. And in those Rust Belt states that actually went for Trump, historically they'd go for the Democratic candidate. Many of them were hard-working men and women, and people that worked in oil industries and coal industries. And you had videos of Mrs. Clinton and others who honestly believed in order to get the clean energy, they made statements, we're going to put the coal industry out of business. We're going to put oil industry out of business. There were statements like that. Now, honest Democratic, a lot of them were Catholic people up there that are historic Democrats. A lot of them voted for Trump because many lost their jobs, the change of technology, what I just talked about. Our base has kind of changed from that old manufacturing base. So those were honest people who said, look, the Democratic candidate, as well as the history of Mr. Obama, his sincere beliefs that we kind of had a war on coal, they called it dirty energy, Well, those people, they can see. They don't just read the newspaper and watch the media. They had real effects, losing their jobs, seeing their industries go down. They had real effects that caused them to switch the aisles and vote for a Trump who said he would do things differently. And it's a dishonor to them that the media consistently claims that those people didn't make decisions or vote for someone else. But it was Russia, it was this, it was that. And they're doing it right now. So, I started it real quick. Let's see, I did Bitcoin Rush. I saw a few friends this last week and yesterday. So, overall, I would just say, I don't know if this crash is going to continue, but I just listened to a stockman on one of the local talk shows, and he's talking about, that the government has a particular agency to protect the plunge from happening if it's going to affect. I understand all that, but in the most part, what you see is kind of a manipulation. And the honest view of the market the last few years is, it's who said it? Alan Greenspan, the former Federal Reserve Chairman, irrational exuberance. To me, that was the honest view, because I just explained to you, a big portion of all that money is in a couple of tech industries that are dependent upon you clicking on a computer or turning on your phone and seeing Facebook. And what happens if this happened the other night to YouTube? What happens if maybe something happens and it shuts it down for a day or two? And then a month, well, all of a sudden, whatever valuation you have because of advertising doesn't even exist. It's not something you hold. The Bitcoin is not a thing you put in your hand. So if all this value is dependent, and yet at the same time we see a narrative from the media that Russia, through bots and through this same technology, is an unstoppable force that's going to overthrow democracy. Okay, so you 1 minute you're saying, oh, everything's stable, the fundamentals are stable. No, what fundamentals? It's not real things. Valuation of that market is just in tech, a big part of it. So you're telling us the fundamentals are good, everything's good. At the same time, foreign actors, whether it's anonymous or Russia, they can absolutely manipulate all of this technology and bots and YouTube and all. I simply believe that if you looked at the real things going on, the American people, they're not stupid. The Rust Belt people that actually did swing the election to Trump, it had nothing to do with Russia. You see a woman, Mrs. Clinton, and Mr. Obama making statements, we're going to put you out of business, talking to the coal industry. You think those people were not, they were so ignorant that they couldn't have made an informed decision, that some of them saw their entire manufacturing things going by the wayside, and they wanted someone different? That's okay. So this is the update. I got some teaching stuff. I'm not sure if I'll do any more, but I'm not sure what the market will do today. I've not been a fan of it for many years, and maybe some of my friends said, "Well, John's just negative on it." Just look at that one thing. How could you have such a valuation loss in one day over the possibility that interest rates would go up because the economy is doing well? Okay? And the historic way you would understand the market is if the economy and things are doing well, then that's good for the market. So it's showing you that we're not really in the old way of investing. We're in something that one little fear can cause billions and billions of dollars of loss. And to me, that's just not that's fundamentally flawed, okay? God bless everybody.